Okay. Welcome everybody. First, I just wanted to announce that we just convened executive session where we were discussing personnel matters. No action was taken. So now I will call to order our meeting of town council for May 23rd, 2022. If everyone could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We start every meeting the same way. We're here to work together to better our town. All of us in the room, we all have an equal voice. We may disagree, but when we do it with civility and respect, because in the end, we're all neighbors. A few announcements. I think the Heritage Center on June 14th has a Westview Park presentation, if I got that correct. The town is looking for a junior councilman, a council member. That application ends on the 26th of this month. If anyone's interested, they can go to our town website. We are also looking for a town manager, a code officer, and a summer laborer. So if anybody is interested in those or knows somebody that's interested in applying, please go there. Does anyone from council have any announcements that I may have missed? None? Okay. Moving on. We have a new accounting person. Brittany, you want to pop up and say hi to everybody? I'll give a little Brittany Yavorka. All right, I got it right. So I have a little right up here. You and your husband has lived in Mccandless for what, 10 years?
Yes.
What area do you live in? You mind sharing?
We live off of Sloop on Willoughby.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
Marsh.
So it says that you attended CCAC, then Point Park. And you went from a what degree to a what degree?
Criminology to accounting.
Okay.
Crazy path.
Can we ask how you made that transition?
When I graduated high school, my goal was to be a police officer, and being 5'2", that didn't go out very well for me. So I started in the criminology field and just decided I liked numbers a whole lot more.
Yeah. Nice. And you're joining us as you have 15 years experience. You were with a global manufacturing company before this. And then you were a management accountant at US branch. Is that a company?
I was the management accountant for the US branch for our company. We had locations in China, France, the UK, India. So
wow.
I would interact with all of the other accountants through our company.
Wow. So your duties will be to prepare the annual budget, accounting reconciliation, month end, year end accounting stuff, audit, tax reconciliation.
Yes.
So welcome to the team. Welcome to the family. It's always good to hire somebody from the community. Yeah, best of luck to you.
Well, thank you guys. Just wanted to say thank you for the warm welcome. I'm excited.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, next up, we're going to accept public comment on agenda items only. What we do is those in the room, if you have something to say, you get 5 minutes, come up to the podium, state your name and your address. And then after that, if you're attending online and you want to speak, please put your name in the chat box. And when your turn comes, we will reach out to you and give you the microphone request. So do we have anybody in the room that would like to make a public comment on any of the agendas? No? Please.
Good evening. Thank you. I suppose this is the best. I'm Deborah Sagan and I live at Parkland Drive. On the agenda tonight is the activities committee report, and I spoke with Carolyn Schweiger earlier, and she wasn't sure if she could be here, so I just wanted to let you know that there is a activity to be approved. The
Wednesday walks, Wednesday fitness walks, and also there was a yoga on Saturdays, and I'm not sure if that made it to your desk, to your email, the project form, but I emailed it to a few people tonight just in case, and I do have a copy in case you need it for approval. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. There's another gentleman. Good evening, sir. Your name and address?
Ladies, Michael Martin, Ringeisen Road.
Okay, Mike.
I want to speak in opposition to any kind of low income or no income housing in the township. Before the election, President Trump warned us that that would be going on. If, say, if a house burned down, you would try to put a 4-unit apartment there for no income people. Just want you all to know, I come from the ghetto. I moved on up to here, and I was getting away from that type of stuff. I don't see any benefit whatsoever in having no income people in the township. They're not providing any kind of wage tax. They're just a drain on the economy. So that's my point. I just want you to know that there is somebody at least that opposes that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else in the audience that'd like to make a comment on agenda items? Seeing none. Sandra, do you know we have anybody online? Are we having technical trouble?
I think we're having some technical trouble. We'd like to pause the meeting.
Okay.
We want to restart it.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to go back in and restart the meeting.
Okay.
We're having
So-
people that are indicating they're having a hard time getting on, which I.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Announce anything.
Yep, we're
Okay,
back on the road.
we're back being recorded. Okay, we were on the number 5, public comment on agenda items. We had 2 people from here in the building to speak. Does anyone else that's here in attendance want to say anything about an agenda item? None. And then again, since we're back up on Zoom, if anybody wants to make a comment on an agenda item, type your name in the chat box and Sandra will send you a microphone request. I don't see any, Sandra, am I correct? Okay. Moving on. The meeting minutes from the April 25th meeting were in everyone's packets. Want to know if anybody has any edits or revisions to those after they were able to read them. Seeing none from here in the room from council. Kathy or Jack, any things you good with the meeting minutes as they stand?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion then to approve the meetings from the April 25th meeting?
Also move to approve the meeting minutes submitted each member of council for town council meeting April 25th, 2022.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Clunan here. Are there any comments from anybody on this? Nope. Okay, everyone in favor of accepting the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Okay, reports of committees. We'll go with the Administrative and Finance Committee. Mr. Casey, do you want to run through this, or since you're remote, do you want me to do it for you?
Would you run through it for me, please?
I can. This is the staff reports with the checklisting. And Tricia Greathouse is here in the room for those that, oh, they see him, they see him on the video here. I'm sorry. So,
Good evening, council. You have received the April check listing for approval. Does anyone have any questions on those items?
okay. Hearing none. Do we have a motion? Clunan?
I move to approve checklisting number 4 dated April 1, 2022 to April 30, 2022, totaling $1,459,175.57 as submitted to each member of council and posted on the bulletin board and town website.
Second.
Second by Mr. Singer. Okay. Everybody in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope. Okay. And the financial dashboard.
Included in your packet was the April 30th for the 4 months ending dashboard. That included your budget to actual as well as your year-to-date results. Everything is going in the right direction. Revenues are performing ahead of last year and where I'd expect them to be at this time of year. Expenditures are below expected and below last year. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them regarding the financial results. Also, you have in your packet the 3 reports that we received from the auditor, the state auditor general on the pension plans. This is a annual, not an annual, typically occurs every 3 years. Because of COVID, we're getting a 4th year included in that. We received, as expected, reports in good condition and favorable condition. There was one comment on the retired non-uniform pension plan, which is the town's very small pension plan, with about $33,000 worth of expenditures per year. The town administration in years past has made the conscious decision to operate as a pay-as-you-go. That amount is budgeted on an annual basis in the town's general fund budget. So it's explainable in their comments. If you have any other questions regarding those pension plan audits, I'm happy to answer them. They're funded, the police MPOA pension is currently funded at 90% as of 2020, and which, given the current market conditions at that time and the actuarial results, is considered in a favorable position. It fluctuates from year to year based on market conditions and age of participants. So again, I have that included in the audit packet, in the financial packet, as well as the results. I'm happy to answer any questions on any of those items.
Any questions?
Yes, Kim.
I would appreciate moving forward to get these audits when you get them. I'd like to.
Yes, ma'am. The next
have
one.
an explanation about them before I see them addressed in the newspaper.
We've adjusted that policy as well, that procedure as well. The next one you'll see is the fuels audit, which they were in town hall in April. I expect that report within the next month or so, as well as the external independent audit. We will potentially see that in June.
Anybody else have a question? Chris? No? So I guess I had one. So in the article that Kim was referring to,
Yes.
one of our pensions was in the 30-some% funded.
Yes.
But I guess in just plain language, it would be, we're paying for that out of pocket because there's only 2 people in the plan that are
Correct.
there
There are still 2 existing members
remain in
Yes.
in that plan.
and the cost of that is roughly $33 a year.
Okay, we pay sort of
We
from
pay as you go.
pay as you go. Okay. Any more questions, Ms. Grayholz? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now through the liaison reports, Dr. Rapa, do you have an update for us about MIDA?
Yes, the minutes were submitted to council. 3 things worth noting. Approval of a resolution request from LaRoche University for 1 or more of their university bonds for capital improvements and debt service. Secondly, approval to update the fee schedule to a new fee schedule, since that hadn't been done since 1980. And the third item is, and I think Mrs. Zachary mentioned this last meeting, that a grant from MIDA was given to the town, given to Mccandless and Franklin Park Ambulance Authority. That would be it.
Which they are very grateful. Thank you.
Dr. Rapa, how much was the grant? Or,
I think it was 20,000.
nice, very nice, very helpful for the ambulance authority. Anything else?
That is all.
Thank you for your update. The North Hills COG is mine. We met in person last week. Besides esoteric functioning of government items, the big thing that came out of it was Harmer wants to join the North Hills COG. The North Hills COG currently has, I think, about 11 communities that are represented in the COG.
19.
Oh, I'm sorry, 19. So Harmer wants to consider joining that. So what we had voted on was to form a committee to come up with requirements of any local other community that want to join the North Hills COG. And then they will report back to the committee and we will vote on that. Some of the items that were kicked around were, do we share the same school districts? Do we share the same waterways? Do we share the same borders? And things like that. So that was really the big thing that came out of the North Hills COG. You want to have questions on that? Okay. Mr. Sprinkle, are you here for the? Yep. Gannon, do you want to give us your report or?
I submitted my report last week. It's in all of your packets. It was on Project Water, the yearly dodgeball tournament that also funds clean project missions in Sierra Leone. Have you all heard of Project Water before? I know this is a routinely NA thing. Okay. It celebrated its, I think, 7-year anniversary this year, and it was funded by an NA student 7 years ago. But it's a really great program.
Do you know how much the school raised?
Close to $30,000.
Oh my God! Nice, wonderful. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Good for you guys. So, okay. Any other questions? How much longer are you with us? When's your term? This is it. This is it. Last meeting. You're moving on to the University of Maryland, studying political science. Very good.
Good place to do it.
Yeah, close to the
right down the street.
Well,
thank you for your service.
Yes, best of luck to you. Thank you for your service.
Allowing me this opportunity.
Yeah, if there's anything we could do for you, in the future, please.
The council usually writes a lovely letter of accommodation that he can put towards all of his applications and further
We will certainly.
endeavors in life. So I think that would be lovely for us.
We will certainly get that done.
Thank you, Gannon.
Thank you, Council.
Thanks for your service. Okay, is there any public comment on administrative and finance committee items? By anyone here in the room or anyone online? I don't see anybody in the chat box. Huh? Okay. Very good. That concludes that report. Ms. Zachary, can you lead us through the planning and zoning committee?
We have the planning director's report. If you're on.
Of course, sorry for the overhead. I think we had planned to start off with the presentation from our Michael Baker team member, Kirsten. I'm hoping, yeah, there you are, good. My field of vision is limited to the front of the room. But so I apologize if I have to clear my throat here a few times. I'm going to be running the PowerPoint that she has prepared for sort of a general orientation of the project, different discussions of timelines, things like that. So Kirsten, if you're ready to take it away, I'm happy to turn it over to you.
I'm ready if you want to go ahead and share so everyone can see the slides. All right, there we go.
And yeah, just tell me when to flip.
Okay, well, good evening. Hopefully, do I need to speak into this? Everyone
We can hear you well.
Okay. My name is Kirsten Compitello. I'm here with Michael Baker International this evening. It's good to be here with you all. I've met most of you at this point.
I am the project manager for this complete zoning and land development ordinance modernization project that Mccandless has taken on this year. Michael Baker is the consultant for this project. And I'm here this evening to give you all an overview of the project, the tasks and the timeline involved, and some of the public engagement that we have in mind for the next few months for sure, and kind of a recap of the entire project that's anticipated. So RJ, if you could go to the next slide. So first of all, what is zoning? We will have a bit of time for questions at the end as well. And I know RJ also has some comments that she would like to make. But zoning, trying to read it in front of me so I don't have to look over in the corner while I talk. Zoning is a local ordinance intended to guide growth, to protect health, safety, and welfare. It is a legal construct. There are limitations and constraints in what we can do with zoning that's guided by the MPC. It's Pennsylvania state law. But we are going to stay within what the MPC allows. But also there is a lot of flexibility in what you want your zoning to be. And so for this next year, as we go through this project, a little less than a year, we started back in January. We've been starting to assess and analyze what the current conditions are in Mccandless. We've been working with the task force. We've been looking through your existing code and looking for inconsistencies. And now we're going into the period of starting to meet more with the public and meet more with the community and hear from you what it is that you want. Your zoning can help uphold the communities you want. And if it's not done the right way, it can create barriers to being able to develop and grow or change or preserve the things that you would like to see. So if we could go to the next slide. One thing that you all hopefully are familiar with, I know this was relatively recent. You did your, in Mccandless conversation, your community comprehensive plan. And in that comprehensive plan, you had a substantial public engagement process where you brought your residents together to talk about what people wanted to see in the community. Themes in that were active transportation and connectivity, community activities, green space and sustainability, redevelopment, community identity, and public engagement. So what we're looking to do through your zoning updates are to make sure that the zoning ordinances that you have support those visions. We can do that through things like density and open space requirements that are regulated through your zoning code, setbacks and form-based code that improve the pedestrian realm, flexibility in your regulations that provide clear guidance on what's allowed and what's not allowed, and potentially overlay districts to support transformative visions in particular areas where you may want to see more substantial change. So if we could go to the next slide. So your comprehensive plan is your vision, but the zoning is what allows you to regulate it, to guide it, to make it, to make it happen, or to preserve things that you want to see preserved. Some of the community goals that were in that comprehensive plan were varied housing options, mix of uses, walkable multimodal community, reduce the prominence of parking lots, encourage sustainable and green practices in building and design. So your zoning can enable and support all of these goals. But that being said, we are looking to that comprehensive plan as a starting point, but we are doing continued community engagement and continuing to listen to you all as we help guide you into understanding how you turn that comprehensive plan vision into what do you actually want to regulate and codify into your zoning ordinance. So go to the next slide. The schedule and scope of this project. It's anticipated as roughly a year-long project. We kicked off in January, technically the end of December, but really functionally got into the work in January. We have a general schedule here that has us going through the end of this year and potentially into early next year for the adoption period. There is a prescribed adoption period. That is set out in state law. There's a review period that is required. So there's a potential that your actual adoption period will flow a little bit into 2023. But the bulk of this work will be done in 2022. We'll have a full draft of your updated zoning and land ordinance land development ordinance by the end of 2022. I'm going to go through each of these tasks. So we'll have a slide for each of these, and I'll introduce a bit what they entail. And we're also working with the task force here. So I'll touch on that too, but that is shown on task 5 in this schedule. There are meetings with the task force every other month. Those are those blue dots. And then we also have 2 public workshops envisioned. Those are the green triangles. And you'll see here that there's one coming up in June. So I'll talk a bit more about that in a few minutes as well. So if we could go to the next slide. Task 1 was just project management. That one's pretty obvious. We'll go on to task 2 is due diligence. This really started with some of our desktop review of your existing code, and then we had a site visit on January 31st with town staff. It was a very snowy day, so I apologize if all the photos I've taken so far are white and snowy, and we'll come back and take more on a nicer day. But we reviewed recent planning documents. We reviewed your green space inventory, your comprehensive plan, obviously, other related documents, transportation documents that have been prepared by Port Authority, for example. We've looked at other planning initiatives that have come from the community and from entities that are active in the community. And of course, we looked through your existing code. We interviewed staff to determine where there are inconsistencies or common conflicts. We looked through some of your common variances that are requested. We looked at special exceptions. We looked at a number of months of the zoning hearing board's minutes to see what are the common issues that are arising. We looked at your zoning map and looked for visual evaluation for non-conforming uses. That is all really ongoing throughout the project. There's no real end date where we don't take in new information, but that first phase of due diligence is very heavily focused on gaining as much existing information as possible. And we put all of those into a memo of findings that were shared with RJ and the town staff. So at this point, we've mostly moved on from that, and we'll go on to the next slide, to the evaluation of districts. So evaluation of districts began in March with in conversations with the staff, and then we also reviewed this with the task force at our April task force meeting. And we'll be continuing this with that June public event as well. So this task is really about looking at your zoning district map, evaluating the existing neighborhoods, corridors, overlays, looking at the neighborhood character you have, and then creating a draft neighborhood map and looking at what those future districts might be that reflect the character that you have, the character you want, and the vision that you have. So really, this is all about the zoning map. What are your districts? What should they be? What will the district intents be? This is still in refinement. We do have a draft that we've assembled that we reviewed with the task force that will be shared. We've gotten some comments on it. We're revising it. They will see it again soon. But it will also be shared with the public at that June 23rd event. And we'll be continuing to take feedback and refine it then. So it won't be finalized until later in the summer. We'll go on to task 3B, which is the zoning rewrite. This is a big one. This will really go on for a number of months. We have several chapters that are already underway. We have additional chapters that we'll be continuing to work on throughout the summer. This really does respond to a lot of the input that we get from the public event in June, as well as from the task force that we meet with every 2 months. The proposed table of contents, you can see here, there will be roughly 6 chapters. We have general zoning provisions, which is your administrative chapter. That one we've done a fair amount of work on already. We have the zoning districts, which obviously in the task I just discussed, that one is still going to be developed through public input. We're not going to finalize that until we have that public meeting and hear from people. Zoning uses and supplemental regulations we'll start working on after the zoning districts are finalized. And then signs and definitions. There are a lot of clear standards in those. We are already working on those, but they're also still very much in draft form, and we'll be continuing to develop those with the task force going on into the summer. So your zoning rewrite, as those chapters are developed, those drafts will be shared, end of summer and into the fall. they'll be shared for review with town staff and with the planning commission. So if we go to the next slide, the Saldo, the subdivision and land development ordinance. This goes along with the zoning. Yours is currently all kind of together. We're going to separate it out into two different pieces, which is a very common way to do it. But this is all part of the same project. Roughly speaking, zoning refers to what you can do on an individual lot. The Saldo refers to regulations that are community-wide. And we'll be making sure that those also are consistent, in alignment with the zoning ordinance, in alignment with your community vision, clear and precise, accessible and compliant with the municipality's planning code. I know that's a lot to throw at you right now. We'll come back to questions afterwards. This is the big one we wanted to really go over a bit tonight. Task 5 is public engagement. All of this, everything that's in your zoning, everything that's in your Saldo, it's technical information. It's not the most exciting thing to talk about, but it is important to the community. This is what makes you able to preserve what you want to preserve and regulate things, feasibly, effectively, achievably with the resources and the staff that you have, and make sure that it reflects that what happens in this town and what can happen, what can be built, reflects the visions that you have. So I've broken this out into 5 different categories here. I know RJ is also going to speak a bit about this. Town staff lead the way on administration. They review, we meet with them regularly to make sure that everything that's going into this zoning rewrite is clear and enforceable. It's something that staff understands and can enforce, is achievable with town resources. We don't want a code that's burdensome, that has so many regulations that you can't achieve them all, you can't enforce them all. But we are also working with the task force, which has been a series of community members appointed from different committees and council members. They guide the direction. We meet with them every 2 months. They guide the direction. They let us know what the community's interests are, community needs, let us know what events or what plans are happening that we should be aware of. They advise us on neighborhood character, visions, and resident needs, and they report back to their committees and to council. Keep you informed of what's happening as it happens. Residents share their input at both the preliminary phase, which is coming up now in June, as well as at the more developed phase. At the end of this, once the draft is fully put together, they'll have another review period. In the meantime, we have a projects page that's set up on the Mccandless and Me website that has ongoing information, and something new is put on each month, a blog post or informational materials. Currently, there's a mapping activity that's live. So we're trying to keep people updated throughout the process on that website. There's a print mailer that should be arriving in everyone's homes in June. And then there is our open house #1 on June 23rd that'll be here in this building. I do have another slide on that, so we'll still get to more. And then that open house number 2 will be later in the fall, early winter. The Planning Commission will review and recommend. As the drafts of each chapter are ready, those will go to the Planning Commission for their review. They will review the drafts in advance of them going to the public. They'll advise us on the final content and language. And then the final step will be for all of you. Town council has the ultimate say. You will be in charge of approving and adopting. Hopefully you're happy with it and you do approve and adopt, but you will have the final review. You are the official adopting body. And we hope that you'll follow along through monthly status reports that I've been submitting to town staff and through updates from the task force as we go. All right, I'm probably being a little longer than I intended to be. So I'll try to wrap it up here. The Inform and Engage, Mccandless and Me, these are some of the things that we have on the website currently and or anticipated. We launched the project website in March. We've had a few blog posts put up. We put an initial one in March, another one in April. And then in May, we launched a map exercise, Keep Change, Enhance. Initially, that was only going to be open through May. We've decided to keep it open through the June 23rd event. So that will be open for a while, and people have been using it. We have a good number of comments that have come in. In June, we'll be putting some additional content online, and those printed mailers should also be arriving in mailboxes. And then here I've also summarized some of the additional activities and updates that we have anticipated. And all of that is subject to change slightly as we go through. We may amend it as we see that, people are more interested in some, a certain type of information, a lot of certain types of questions. We might adjust the types of posts that we do, but this is a general overview of what we're expecting. We'll have a blog post in July. We'll have a summary of the public event. We'll have some online activities that let people engage in some of the same information if they were unable to make the public event. We'll have the future zoning map online when it's ready. We'll have blog posts and updates coming through the fall as those chapters start to be finalized and shared with the Planning Commission. And then going into the winter, we'll have the public review period. So if we go to the next slide, the big news here that we want all of you to know about, and also any community members who are listening, we do have an open house that's scheduled. It'll be here in this building on June 23rd from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock. My team for Michael Baker, the entire consultant team, will be here throughout that 4-hour period. We'll have different stations set up. We'll have a team member at each station. We will be talking about what is zoning, what is the purpose and intent. We'll also be showing the future zoning districts, and we'll be talking through with people what that means, and we'll be taking comments and revisions to it. We'll have definitions and uses underway. We'll have a station for community visions. We'll have a brief presentation that we can play on demand, just giving the project overview, and we'll have the mapping exercise that's currently available online. So if anyone hasn't taken it online, it'll be there to take in person as well. So hopefully everyone does come to that. Hopefully all of you come to that as well. And we look forward to talking to everybody on that evening. I think there's one more slide. Following that June 23rd public event, again, we'll have updates and materials available online. But throughout the fall, we'll be going through the refinement and adoption phase. The drafts of each chapter will be shared with staff and the Planning Commission for review. They'll come back to us if there are revisions. We know there will be revisions. It's always a process of working with you to make sure that the language and the regulations are what you want. The updated drafts will then be shared with council for pre-final review and comment. And then once we have your initial comments in, it will be made open for public review and public comment. And per code, that is a minimum 45-day period. There will be a public hearing for public input. So that will be the final step before we all can proceed to adoption. And with that is the summary of the project intent, the schedule, the tasks, and our intended public engagement. I know it was anticipated there may be some questions, and RJ also had some comments. So I don't know if she had a preference on whether she speaks first or we do questions first, but.
So my portion of this was just going to be expanding on the communications plan overview that our council president had asked, I think at the last meeting, for me to put together. So, I'm okay with continuing into that now. We're holding it until maybe you all, if you have more direct questions, for Kirsten. I'm not picky. You tell me what you all would prefer.
Since it was pretty technical stuff, a lot of it was technical to get through. So why don't we just ask any questions of Kirsten we have here? So is there anyone from council that has specific questions or comments for Kirsten? I guess we'll go the room first, and then we'll go to Jack and Kathy.
One of my questions is, I know we have online engagement. We have a meeting set up here in June, and then we have the required public ordinance meeting. In your past, have you found that that's enough time for public input? Do you see other communities allow more public meetings, or is one public meeting, because we have to do the public hearing one. Is one typically what you see, or do you see other communities do more public input?
That's a good question. And no, I don't generally see more communities do more. I see plenty do less, honestly.
Okay.
to have a big public meeting. I think this is the right amount, for sure. I think it's good to have the public meeting in the summer, earlier in the process. We're also working with the task force, and we meet with them every other month. And so there's regular input and feedback coming in from them as well. I suppose there are some communities that might do one additional public meeting, but you're not at all less. And there are many communities that really only use this a steering committee or a task force and then do a larger public meeting only at the end. So I think you've got a pretty standard and a pretty good approach to having the public input, large public input in 2 phases.
Okay. To follow up with that, do you see most communities, do they use a steering committee or a task force in this process? Okay.
Yes.
That's all questions I had.
Okay. Anyone else in person? Any questions? Dr. Rapa, do you have any questions, comments?
No, Jason asked the question I was going to ask. Thank you.
Okay. I guess I'll just conclude. Saw a lot
Try
of
to
things.
not be too technical.
A lot about blog posts. Not everyone's super technical, so the more we can do, I'm glad to see we're have paper going out the door, and we have people coming in to listen to them, because not everyone's tech savvy. I loved your slide 10. It sort of showed each role, each responsibility, how they were communicated to, and so I think that I really liked that. Yeah, no, that was. With more comments.
Well, that is appreciated. And I guess if there's any follow-up I have to that, it's just that we did put together a public engagement strategy at the beginning of this project. I know RJ has that, and I believe she shared it. But it is flexible. We always start with a schedule with something that's anticipated, but it's always flexible. Once we're working, the community may prefer a different approach, and we're always open to that. So if you do have suggestions, this is part of the reason why we do work with the task force. We have been using the website. We have a very well-established website, but if there are opportunities to do outreach in other ways, we're always open to that.
Thank you.
So share your ideas.
RJ. Anyone else up here? Questions? No. Okay. RJ, did you want to?
Sure. How's my microphone volume? Because I'm told that I was loud. Okay. Sorry. I don't know. Didn't change any settings. It just decided to get weird tonight. So I am going to, I think, screen share this communication plan that I put together. I think that'll probably be the easiest way to do this. So here we go. And I apologize. I had planned on presenting this in person tonight, but 2022, such as it is. So I'll take this down for a second and just orient everyone to what this document is before I start scrolling through it, because it's a lot of text. But so out of the feedback that we have had from the council meeting prior, from a couple of discussions with the planning commission, it was pretty clear that there was a desire to have laid out all in one place the different methods of communication, and just some of the different, engagement opportunities, input opportunities, as well as, sort of putting in one place, how does everyone, kind of fit into the bigger picture? What are the puzzle pieces that each, committee, board, the public, what roles does everybody play in this process? And so as part of that discussion, what I had created in between is a overview document. It basically breaks down to a one-pager for each entity. So, we start with town council, of course, planning commission, task force, and then the public. So citizens and stakeholders. And then in the final page here, and I think this was in your packets, in the final page here, we go into a lot more detail as to what we're going to be doing with some of the open house engagement stations, although I think Kirsten covered those pretty well in her presentation, as well as a little bit more detail about the different activities that we have planned on Mccandless and Me, with a note that, you know, things that haven't launched yet, these are still on in development, as Kirsten said, based on kind of, you know, how the project evolves, what we hear at these different public engagement opportunities. So I don't want to go into more detail here than is desired, but I'm happy to elaborate on, like, if you want to go through each group or just, you know, general questions, if you've reviewed it already, you know, again, happy to provide whatever you'd like to hear.
Anybody here in person on council have questions of RJ?
One of my concerns, RJ, is, and it stems back to the task force part. Under your working phase, you have it listed as, you know, meets every other month, is going to provide the consultants a better understanding of community character, improving neighborhood nodes for enhancement or change. My concern is with the composition of that task force. For instance, my ward has no representation there, nor does Ward 3. So you have two entire wards within the town that has no representation of those neighborhoods that we speak of. How are we sure that the task force is representative, you know, in the old Ingomar district or the old Brown and Vaughn plants or the old presidential streets in those areas? Is there a way that the task force will be visiting these neighborhoods or reaching out to members in that area? What's the plan and process to make sure, you know, that there's some representation on those neighborhoods?
Right. Well, so I can reassure you, don't worry, not a single human involved in this project has overlooked Ingomar. That's usually the first place that gets brought up. So you don't have to live there to want to see it have a little TLC and, you know, revitalization. I can say that for sure. But in general, you know, a lot of, I'm thinking back to that particular activity, which I think was one of the first things the task force did. Most of the identification in that activity were like, where are the places that we tend to go and spend time? And so, you know, it was honestly a lot of the same, you know, commercial nodes or activity nodes that pretty much anyone in town would reference, like Mccandless Crossing. They want to see something going on, you know, at the where the cinema used to be and where Mccandless Square is getting going, Dunkin' Shops. You know, those were, again, kind of the hotspots. Perry Highway, the flats, like those are sort of the obvious nodes that, I mean, I think everyone can agree that those are commonly what people are going to think of. But, you know, aside from that, I come to every meeting, and obviously I've been heavily involved in this project. I know that the presidential plan, that's actually one of the ones that we've discussed as what I refer to as a legacy neighborhood. So those are a lot of those lots that were composed of, like, the bingo lots, or for whatever reason they're more narrow. And so pretty much any neighborhood that is majority composed of lots that are under 90 feet wide are going to fall into sort of that legacy neighborhood character. You know, improving flexibility so you don't have to come and get a variance if you want to, like, look out your kitchen window, you know, at the house beside you. So I just don't think that the character of the discussions have been focused on wards. It's been much more like a larger community basis. What we're doing here really shouldn't be something that, you know, you're only going to get a good result if you personally have somebody from every single neighborhood, I hope.
Yeah.
Of course, there's, you know, like, please weigh in on the map and all of the other activities if anyone has concerns, because we're hearing all kinds of stuff all over town. It's great.
Thank you.
Any other questions for those?
I'd like to congratulate you on your communication plan. It's quite good. I think what people were asking for. Have you sent this to the task force and the planning commission?
You know, no, I apologize. I had just gotten it okayed internally on Monday, and then I was out for the rest of the week pretty much. So I'll be happy to do that as I'm catching up.
I think they would appreciate having it. It's nice and clear and concise. Thank you.
I forgot, sorry. I'm actually at the June Planning Commission meeting that's coming up. I am planning on putting this on the agenda to go over. So, you know, of course, with with council's buy-in and approval, this will be sort of the roadmap going forward that everyone can refer to for what their expectations will be.
Okay, I will second what Ms. Zachary said. It's an outstanding communication plan. The technical experience was always here. It was just, people just needed it all in one spot to go, oh, look at all this stuff, and how everyone in the community is getting involved and how they have opportunities to speak up and provide input, whether they're technically savvy or not, whether they understand it or not. So great work.
If this is something that we're open to just sharing externally, I could put it on the project website as well, just because, you know, there is a slide for the public. So is that something that would be okay?
Yeah.
The more information.
Yeah, the more.
the better, Especially with this.
Absolutely.
I will do that.
Ms. Clune, anything to add, or are you good?
I just want to just reinforce what RJ said about representation of particular wards. From what I've seen of the task force, the goal is Mccandless as a community as a whole. And I think, I know I myself serving on the task force, I do know these neighborhoods. I work in these neighborhoods. I drive them daily. I appreciate your concerns. And but I would fear if our goal was to say we need one warm body from every ward, we would find ourselves in the situation that we previously did with our committees, where we actually as a council had to change the rules because we weren't able to find someone from each ward to represent at some of our committees. So that's why all of our committees about a year and a half ago, I don't know the exact time, became at large for that reason, because we realized as a community for Mccandless, that's the goal. I'm not thinking all I care about is my Ward 7 neighbors.
I'm not arguing that point at all. I'm just saying there's distinctive differences between Ward 4 Mccandless and Ward 7. And there's a distinctive difference of southern Route 19 and the local businesses there according to the Wexford Flats. And it's, you know, I'm not discouraging the Mccandless as a whole, but, you know, people live in these small neighborhoods. You know, I have a tendency to visit Cool Cones right on Route 19, where some Wexford Flats might, you know, go to Graders. There's just a community sense of where you go. And that's, you know, there's more community in a smaller sense too. It's why we have wards and things. So as long as the task force has an appreciation and understanding, you know, the chickens in my small bingo neighborhood mean an entirely different thing in zoning than, you know, in Ward 6s and 7s, you know, it means a different thing than 3s and 4s. That's all. It just, I could not let that comment not go without that being heard in a public setting.
Very good. Dr. Rocca, anything before we?
No, I think it's fine. I thought it was a great communication plan.
Good work. Both of you.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you.
Thank you all for having me to get on with your meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Zachary,
I'm sorry. Would you like me to go into the monthly staff report, or are we good?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'll be quick. Don't worry. So there were a couple developments that were discussed at the Planning Commission meeting at the beginning of this month. One of them is going to be in the voting section of your agenda. That is an approval for a lot line revision, which is just a type of simple subdivision in the technical sense, although also in the descriptive sense, I guess. That is going to be amending one of the lot lines from Mccandless Square Phase 2. That's the commercial retail portion, and the developer's representative is also on the line for when we get to that part. But you know, everything's in order. There is the top line. The Planning Commission also continued to review the Ridge subdivision plan on what is also or formerly known as the Marwa property. They asked the developer to provide some more information on the construction details for the external sidewalk on Perry Highway. External meaning it's not, it wouldn't be one that would directly connect to, you know, the actual new homes that would be built in the plan, but it still is required unless you waive it, because it's a property line that abuts a road that would be part of the development. So previously it was expected that there would need to be a quite high retaining wall to construct that. We were hearing from the developer that they could actually do it with one that's much lower. So the planning commission requested additional details on how that would work, because that's a bit of a departure from what we had expected previously. So they'll be coming back to the June meeting, I believe, with more information on that. Other than that, I continue to have the standing item for the zoning and Saldo modernization project update. I can go into more detail on anything in the report there, but since we already heard quite a bit about that project, I'm happy to skip it unless anyone has any specific questions.
Thank you. It looks like you covered everything for the planning commission, zoning hearing board.
Thank you. You have the meeting minutes from February and March in your packet. The zoning hearing board has been faced with some slightly more complicated decisions that they've had to make, and one will be continued until this week, until Wednesday. But I do want to just express my appreciation for our zoning board and the time they're taking in the investigative. They really work hard to find out as much as they can about each of these individual cases, and it's been really a great learning experience watching them and seeing how they handle this, because even with all this discussion of rejuvenating our zoning, these cases are going to continue to come up, and so I appreciate the zoning board that we do have to handle this. If you have any questions? No, that concludes the zoning.
All right, thank you. Public comment on anything in planning and zoning? Anyone present? Anyone online? All right, that concludes the report.
Thank you, Ms. Zachary. We have a recreation committee report. Ms. Schweiger is out. But I guess do we have to approve this fitness center? Just a head nod. Are we allowed to ask Ms. Sagan to come to the? Yeah. Deb, do you want to? Is that what you want to fill in for?
Sure.
Carolyn, since she's not here, brief us on the walks from the fitness center project form.
Oh, sure. I had submitted a proposal to have walks once a week, and right now it's Wednesday walks from the fitness court to enhance public knowledge about the fitness court. I'm not a personal trainer, so I just want people to be aware that it's there. And then I'd like to stay in Mccandless and do our walks, not necessarily going over to North Park, but explore this area. At least in the month of June, we'll do it like maybe 4 times. And then on Saturdays, Carolyn Spear has volunteered as she's a yoga instructor, and she will do yoga in the park. She'll have classes on Saturday mornings, say at 9 o'clock for about an hour. So we'll need, we're using the pavilion at Devlin Park during that time. Usually picnics don't start till later, even if somebody rents the facility. So we're just trying to get some people outdoors and have some healthy activities beyond what we did in the wintertime. Any questions? Yeah.
What time are the walks on Wednesday? I did not.
I did a little survey on the Facebook site, one of the citizen sites, and people seem to like mornings. So I'm thinking 9 or 10 o'clock. Somewhere in that range, probably 9:30. And I've been scoping out different areas. There's actually a little trail behind the new Mccandless Square, is that what we're calling it, the homes back there. And I rode my bike back there today, although it ends at the Port Authority site. I'm hoping maybe somehow we can get that extended a little bit. So it is a not just an out and back trail, but it's a really nice crushed trail. Maybe we can do some of the sidewalks on Blazer Drive and just a mile or 2 with people. See if people show up. If not, it'll be me and maybe a few of you.
And just I would suggest with that, reminding folks about the app for the fitness center.
Yes,
So
good suggestion.
if people do sign up, maybe include a link to get that app so they can learn if they're.
Exactly. That was my point when I started. I'm sorry, kind of segued there, but thank you for suggesting that. That's a great suggestion. And also, I believe that the town has a liability release. So I would have to have that. I would have those available for people to fill out, or maybe beforehand. I'm not going to have sign up sheets or anything like that. It's just whoever shows up and we'll have maybe Mr. Culver can say, if that's okay, just to have it there for people to sign.
Sure.
Mhm.
Anybody have questions? More? Yeah, it's just a head nod, like everyone, we're good with this? Yep.
Thumbs
Head
up?
nod.
Okay, we'll
We're good.
probably start the week, not the first week of June, but the second. Things are kind of slowing down, but John has called me already about communication, so we'll get something out and get it on the website, and hopefully 4 or 5 people show up. Yoga has really been, a lot of people have been asking about that, so great. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you for these 2 projects, and I also wanted to say thank you for starting to look at some of the items that have been laid out in the comprehensive plan for the activities committee that you started moving forward on some of that. I'd like to thank
sure.
you for taking
You're
those
welcome.
projects.
It's been a pleasure to serve, and I really appreciate it. And I'm glad to see the plan being used, in our previous presentation as well, that, it's an active document having served. And Jason knows that too. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deb. The Financial Development and Promotional Committee for the Heritage. Ms. Clunan, you want to give us an update?
Sure. Thank you. You have the minutes from the last meeting, and we have 4 members of our committee here this evening. I want to thank you for joining us. But I was going to see if it would be okay if I ask Mr. Wall to just give a very brief update on our golf outing. And then I will also, later in the agenda is the review of the Heritage Center mission statement. And perhaps we could ask Abby to speak to that before we vote, or now or later. I'm not sure.
Whatever, the chair.
Everyone's here to speak. We might as well just,
While we're on Heritage Center.
while we're on Heritage Center,
Sure.
and then we
Okay.
can,
Well, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Wall. From what I hear, unfortunately, I had to be out of town, but a big congratulations are in order.
Thank you. As all of you were made aware, we had a golf outing for the benefit of the Heritage Center last Friday at the par 3 golf course across from the Heritage Center. It's a great day. We managed to tiptoe through the raindrops, as it were. We had about 55 participants. The community really stepped up and supported our cause with sponsorships and in-kind donations. I appreciate some of the board members coming and being a part of the day. On top of that, we celebrated our 5th anniversary. And on Saturday, we had all kinds of activities going on where we coordinated with the activities committee with Treasures in the Trunk. And we coordinated with the Mccandless, or the North Allegheny Youth Soccer Association. So all told, we had over 100, 110? 104 people on Saturday went through our doors for the first time. So we're very happy about that. And on Friday, we had another 30 or 40 people that went through the doors for the first time. So we're really pleased. I want to thank you for your support.
Thank you. And if we could have Mr. Costick come up and share, I mentioned at our last council meeting, not our last one, 2 previous, that there was new vision, and I was very happy to see that the goals of the Heritage Center were more toward engaging our community. And I appreciate that. If you can explain how you got to this.
My name is Abby Mccandless, for those of you I have not met before, and I'm the chair of the Heritage Center's FDPC. A few months ago, under the guidance of our museum consultant, Carolyn Keller, our executive committee members, Joe Wall, vice chair, Dan Coyne, treasurer, and I met to review and revise the Heritage Center's mission statement. As we enter our 5th year of operation, we are re-examining our path forward to create a thriving cultural asset in our community. The mission statement explains why we do what we do. The newly added vision statement tells where we're going. The FDPC committee members present our new mission and vision statements to you for your approval. Our mission statement reads, "The mission of the Mccandless Northern Allegheny Heritage Center is to engage the public as a vibrant community resource that promotes stewardship of history, education, and research relating to the everyday lives of the citizens of the Northern Allegheny region. We want to create a dynamic place for members of our community to further their understanding of the area we call home. We strive to create programming, exhibitions, events, and relationships which help our visitors better understand our collective history." Our newly implemented vision statement reads, "To be stewards of our region's heritage, generating educational and research opportunities for individuals of all ages while maintaining a dynamic collection that reflects historical events as they occurred and demonstrates that our past is relevant, enjoyable, and meaningful." It's our hope that the Heritage Center will grow to expand to reach new audiences, continue to add important pieces to our collection, and tell the narrative of our region through the objects and stories of those who have gone before us. Respectfully, I ask that you vote to approve our new mission and vision statements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have questions of Abby about the mission and vision? No. Abby, I had what? Research. Like, can you, I don't want to mean to parse words, but
Sure.
like what would you envision that to be?
Dan Coyne, the treasurer of our FTPC, he is doing an oral history project where he's interviewing members of the community, longtime members of the community. And the hope is that along with our library of resources, that high school students can come and, use the oral history and also the objects in the library, the books in the library as a part of their research materials. Literally,
Okay.
that is what the research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just opening the statement here.
Sure.
Mission. In your new mission statement, I didn't see anything about raising money, because that's really what, like, is it, I don't understand, is this the new mission of the Heritage Center, but
Yeah.
the resolution that was passed and that gave duties to the Financial Development and Promotional Committee or financial. So can you talk through that?
Sure. Yeah, the mission statement is specific to the Heritage Center and what the purpose of the Heritage Center is meant to be. So typically, every 3 to 5 years, you should re-examine, the direction that you're going. And the fact that we've been in existence now for 5 years, the intended direction of the Heritage Center has changed course over especially the last 3 years, especially with COVID. So in coming out of that and entering our 5th year, we're just looking to refocus and move into a more focused direction. So, but raising funds is always the FTPC's primary goal.
Okay.
That's the goal.
Yes.
We'll continue.
Any further questions of Abby?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think a little suggestion, if you may not have noticed, but we just had a Boy Scout that is revitalizing an old cemetery. That seems like the history of that sounds so fascinating. It sounds like something right up your alley.
Yes, Tricia's told us about that.
Oh, before.
Yeah, so. Thank you.
It's just nice when you have a lot of things work together.
Agreed. Great comment. Okay, are there any public comments on the Recreation Committee items that were discussed by any of those here in attendance with us or any of those online? So, okay, very good. Moving on, Town Manager's report.
I received a copy of my report. I just wanted to highlight a few items. The bids will be open this coming Friday for the North Meadows detention pond retrofit. So we will report back to council on the results of that bid opening for you to consider at a future meeting date. Also, Jeff Shaneman will be meeting later this week with representatives of the Army Corps concerning the Wexford Run study, as he will be taking a lead role in that moving forward. Work is progressing on the Grubbs Road sidewalk and the Route 19 sidewalk projects. I also heard earlier today from Passivant, and they are putting all of their necessary items in place to get their sidewalk project moving. They are trying to incorporate that project and prioritize it along with some other projects that they were undertaking based on code requirements or patient safety matters that have been brought to their attention. So that is moving forward as well. The last thing that I wanted to
Can I make a comment on sidewalk?
Sure.
The ambulance authority granted our easement also.
okay.
So you know.
I am, and just so that everyone's aware, that's good news to hear. And I'm working out a letter to send back to the ambulance authority and working with the engineers to ensure that there's access in and out during the project, which shouldn't be any issue whatsoever. So that's being done. And then projects are moving forward on Wall Park, the improvements to the ball fields down there and the Devlin Park tennis courts, or tennis/pickleball courts to be more precise. So all of that is moving forward, and we have put items in place so that they can continue to move forward into June and beyond. That completes my report.
Town attorney's report.
I submitted my report, and as always, I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Seeing none.
That's it.
Okay. Very good. Under old business. Dr. Rafa, would you like to give us, or at least our community, an update on the town manager search, how we're approaching it, our committee, what we've done to date?
The committee so far has put together an ad that was submitted on, I believe it was the 18th. We also put together a job description, which is on the town website. We also put together a rubric for evaluating the applications as they come in. And we will be ranking those evaluations and be looking to interview probably around 7 or so candidates. The council is being given a little spreadsheet about each individual candidate, as well as they get to see every resume. And we're looking, hopefully, we have kind of an aggressive timeline, but there's going to be a lot of ups and downs depending on when candidates can come in and when they can't to be interviewed. We put together a timeline, and hopefully between mid and the end of July, we will have a town manager. It's about the sum of it.
Good summary. Thank you. Anybody from council have questions for Dr. Wampel? No? Is that something, is there anyone here in person would have comments or online? No? Okay. Good work so far by your committee. I'm sure it'll continue that way, Dr. Rafa.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to new business. First, this is just a housekeeping thing. Bob, you want to explain it to everybody?
Yes. This is a resolution that the council considers annually regarding destroying public records in accordance with the state-approved records retention manual. Every year we go through the town records to determine what we need to keep, what we can destroy in an effort to limit the amount of paper files and electronic files that we have in place. So this is just our annual effort to do that. If any of you have records that you've accumulated in the last year, get them down here quickly. We're going to be Destroying those at the end of the week, correct?
By the 27th.
Yes, by Friday, and we can include those in the destruction.
Thank you. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the tentatively identified ordinance, resolution number 5 of 2022, a resolution declaring the town's intent to destroy public records in accordance with the schedule and procedures for disposition of records as set forth in the municipal records manual provided on July 16th, 1993, and as amended.
Second,
Second.
Ms. Clute, second. Do we have any comments from those in attendance or those online before we vote? Seeing none. Everybody in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Next up, I think we had the presentation about the Heritage Center mission statement. It looked to be a positive reiteration of what they're doing. Does anybody have questions about that or want to discuss things any further with the 4 committee members that are here before we choose to maybe vote? Seeing none. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Heritage Center mission statement.
I will second that.
Second by Ms. Clunan. Any comments from the public, those here on council or those online? Seeing none. Okay. Everybody in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay. Want to brief us on the town emergency plan, Bob?
Actually, Jeff Whistler, our emergency management coordinator and fire marshal, is here. I've asked him to give you a 30,000-foot description of the work that he's been doing.
Good evening, everybody. So I don't know if you all have had an opportunity to kind of review the new plan, compare it to the old. You can see it's been updated quite immensely, going from the 7-page to approximately a 22-page plan, and that's before the meat of the plan. So this would be the new public plan. It coincides with Allegheny County Emergency Management's template, what they're looking for communities to kind of mirror. One, it'll be more seamless when we do need to utilize county EMA or PEMA. They're already familiar with a lot of these terminologies. You also see we have a new, well, there's quite a few of them, but checklists. Those ones have been updated, so now we will, that'll be basically what we'll be using. It's not too much of a change, but those are the new updated ones as well. The last plan that we actually have is from 2017. The plan is supposed to be reviewed and approved by council every 2 years. So we're a little late in that, but I believe the last time in 19, you guys were in the midst of changing your emergency management coordinators. So I think some things kind of got misconstrued, but this is just the first step of adopting this public plan. That'll get us in accordance with Allegheny County. Then we can kind of move forward with that. So there are a lot of things that I'm doing right now. I'm updating our NARM, our notification resource manual that was significantly outdated. So I've got, I'd probably say a good 80% of that already updated. That will be included in our plan. There are stuff like that that's not public knowledge or not for public viewing. So there are things in here as we move forward. We'll be looking at looking at creating some hazard-specific plans. For example, I don't know if you all know, but we already actually have technically a hazard-specific plan for the retention dam down on Whitmer Road. I just learned about that last month, that we actually had a plan. So that is kind of already in here, but as we move forward, we might be creating plans for winter storms, tornadoes, flooding, for example. Those particular plans, as we evolve in the future, those won't be public plans because there will be some kind of privy information that we don't want the public to know. But by adopting this plan, we will become current now with Allegheny County. And then every 2 years moving forward, we'll need to be reviewed. The plan will be reviewed and we'll come to you with, if there are any changes, we'll let you know, but that plan needs to be adopted or promulgated every 2 years. Okay, but like I said, this is just the first step, but this will get us compliant with Allegheny County. Does anybody have any questions regarding the plan or the process? I'm more happy to answer what I can.
When this was updated previously, council had a little workshop that was like 4 hours. And the high points or the significant things to council were kind of gone over. That was, I felt, very informative and kind of got everyone on the same page than just reading a document, just something to consider. I really appreciated that previously.
Good enough.
I have a couple of questions. First, thank you. I can see the amount of work that was put into this. I appreciate it. As you may or may not know, I work with the Red Cross Disaster Action Team, have been for several years. So like I've seen these sort of plans work and not work in the past few years. So I really appreciate what you've done so far. A couple of questions that I had were kind of in particular, like on page 2, item J, it says alert town residents, and you would do the emergency alert system. But then where does it go from there? I don't know if we have a capability, like as a parent in NA, when there's a snowstorm, I click on na.org or whatever it is, and they have over top of everything else on their website, 2-hour delay, no school today, whatever. Is there a way we can do that? Because what I fear is people get an alert on their phone or something like that, or watching TV and something scrolls. Where are they going to turn for more information? Are they going to turn to a Facebook page, or are they going to turn to our town's website? So what I'm hoping is that we have the capability to do that overlay. So as soon as you hit townofmccandless.org, you're seeing some information, the right information.
So you bring up a good point. So I actually have a checklist about that long. And that is actually one of the things on there. Community I came from, 1 square mile, we actually still had a building siren that we converted to allow certain audibles to help with that. And that would inform residents to tune into certain media. Here in Mccandless, I'll be honest, I'm not even sure what all our capabilities are, because that's one of the reasons why I called for an emergency management meeting this Thursday afternoon, so we can start figuring all this out. Because now there are so many different media outlets, right? There is just not turning into KDKA TV or radio. There is all that social media. And we want to reach out to as many of the residents as possible. Not just the residents, but people that work or shop in Mccandless, because you never know when that emergency is going to happen. So that is one of the things that I am posing to our team, including our public information officer, which we're losing one of them. So we need to kind of figure that all out and figure where we're going to go, because we do need to do that. And I truly don't even know what our outlets really are right now. Okay. So that's, to me, it's also a learning curve trying to figure that out, but that's actually on one of my many lists to identify all that. So if anybody has something that they use or know of, I am all ears.
Yeah, because I can tell you you know, we might say, go to Mccandless and me or something, but I don't know that enough people know to go there. They're going to just Google Mccandless.
Right. And we do have a
And then we need to
population
have
that are
a
not
drop
tech
answer.
savvy, so
Mhm.
how do we reach out to
Right.
them? And that would be more probably the old fashioned way of door knocking
Mhm.
or driving up and down the streets with megaphones. You know, that's all gonna be incorporated in it.
Okay. And probably an extension of that then is, if unfortunately we get to the point where we need to go into sheltering operations and things like that. Again, the information needs to be there. I think about the bridge collapse. We were sent there to assist the folks that were affected immediately by the bridge collapse, but we were told by the chief that there may be up to 50 residences that had their gas turned off. So we needed to be ready to shelter those individuals. And so a lot of times we don't think beyond the immediate crash in front of us or the immediate flood. So, looking at sheltering and so forth, I was curious, it's mentioned schools in here, but then on page 22 as to who is on the distribution list of this plan, there were not the school district listed in that folks that would be part of this plan.
Yeah, so if you notice at the very end, it was kind of left it open-ended to where council could approve where you also want to send the plan to. So school districts, and actually Mr. Grimm brought that up as well, that can be easily added to the list.
Okay, because that would probably be the first go-to
Right.
in terms of sheltering.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about it, because I'm creating, we had kind of a shelter list, but it was, I'll say, incomplete information, and I'm trying to update all that, including good contact information for the shelters and what they're capable of doing. We need smaller shelters, and we obviously need larger shelters, for those bigger incidents. But that is a work in progress as well.
Right. Thank you. That's the questions I had. Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
Just a couple comments. I agree with Trish. I saw that the school district wasn't included in that, and I felt that was a primary point. And then the second is also faith-based community churches would be also shelter in place, because they do have, some of them even have, some of the older ones even have lower level facilities. So I thought it might be something to look into as well.
Absolutely. Ever since everybody's finding out I'm now appointed the EMC, I've become a popular person. Yeah, but that's a good thing, because we're reaching out to a lot of our I'll say the vulnerable population. I'm trying to meet with their personnel, learning their plan, getting copies of their plan, their personnel, so that we can, if need be, assist them in an emergency. So it's all work in progress.
Any other comments from council? Questions?
Is it completed?
I'm sorry?
Is the plan completed? Because we're voting on it.
The basic, just the basic
Just the
plan.
basic
Yes,
plan.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that'll, like I said, get us compliant with Allegheny County. Yeah, but everything else is still absolutely.
It really, at this point, becomes a living document. It will be adjusted as need be, as we would look at types of emergencies, hazards and things. So it will constantly be updated and refined. And I've asked Jeff to keep the council informed as things progress.
Is it a vote when it quote progresses, or is it an update?
It'll be an update.
Okay. And then I know that, can we vote on it tonight? Because they wanted to have some language added. Is that?
It's a living document. You can approve what's written in front of you tonight, and then they can be adding that as we go along. It can come back to council if you'd like in the future.
I understood it more. We're approving basically the outline, and then they're going to continually fill in.
That's right.
The aspects that change.
That's right, Jason.
Oh, I
Because because then he'll get into more of the specifics.
Yes.
This is to check the box with the county.
Yeah, so
This is exactly what it is.
Gotcha. Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, or I'll make a motion to adopt the tentatively identified resolution number 6 of 2022, a resolution updating the town emergency management plan.
Second.
Okay. Any comments from council? Any comments from the audience? Any comments online? No. Okay, we have a motion on the table. Everybody in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Thank you, Jeff. Good work. Is this an RJ, the next one here, the lot line? There she is.
Yes.
Take it away, RJ.
Hi. So yeah, I think I referred to this a bit in the staff report section earlier. Mr. Klodowski is also on the line if you have any more particular questions for him. But this is a pretty simple one. So back in, I think it was towards, might have been the beginning of this year into last year, we did the phase 2 approval for Mccandless Square, which was the commercial retail portion. That's going to be sort of like on the north end of the site, whereas the personal care home is here and the townhomes in phase 3 is over here. Backwards, if I'm not doing it in front of a computer monitor, sorry. But point being, one of the tenants that they have for the phase 2 development is a childcare provider that prefers to own their property instead of lease it. So at the time that the phase 2 approval came through, the subdivision did not reflect chopping off that one piece into its own separate parcel, I think because they didn't have the tenant nailed down at that point. But now that they do, they are coming back for just a simple lot line revision to that same subdivision plan, which would divide this, I think it's called the learning experience, I want to say, childcare facility off from the rest of the property. Would still be part of Mccandless Square, just different ownership in the end.
Okay, thank you, RJ. Does anybody have questions of RJ about what we're about to vote on? Entertain a motion on. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion.
Ms. Clunan?
Move to approve the lot line revision application for Blazer Drive subdivision plan number 4, submitted by Warhorse Venture Partners as reviewed by Gateway Engineers in a letter dated April 26, 2022.
Okay. Second?
Second.
And Ms. Zachary? Okay. Any last minute comments from council before we vote? Nope. Anybody in the audience? Anybody online? Nope. Okay, motion on the table. Everybody in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Motion carries. Okay, last one, another housekeeping one.
Yes, this is a 1-year extension of the SALT contract to the North Hills Council of Governments. With Morton Salt, price will remain at $75.02 per ton. So good overall price, good service that we have provided and the quality material in the past. So staff recommendation would be to authorize the 1-year extension.
Very good. Anyone like to entertain a motion?
I make a motion to approve the North Hills Council of Governments SALT contract extension.
Second,
Second.
Ms. Clunan? Okay. Any comments from council, those in the meeting or those online? None. Okay, motion on the table. Everybody in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. This is the last meeting for this here at Mccandless for this gentleman to my right. Bob, you will be missed. You've been a steady hand while you're here, a good partner since I've been in this seat, and a man of great integrity.
Thank you.
We will miss you. Good luck in your future endeavor. Good health, especially to your family. So with that news, we have to appoint an interim manager. Would somebody like to make a motion?
And secretary.
Yeah, an interim manager and secretary.
I'll make a motion to appoint Tricia Greathouse as the interim manager and secretary.
Second.
Second, Dr. Rapa. Any comments from anyone in the room or online? Okay. Everybody in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Congratulations, Tricia. We have the utmost confidence in you. Okay, wrapping up. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items?
I know you're all wondering about the active Allegheny grants, and I'm still in discussion with Franklin Park on the planning grant. So they'll be in touch, somebody from Franklin Park will be in touch with you because they have decided to be the administrator of the grant instead of the COG. So if they move forward on that, it would be concerning the connector for the Pine Creek corridor that we already have planned in our implementable plan. We're done with the planning, so to speak. Mccandless is. Right now with everything going on, we thought that was the best move. And I've been working with some of the people on the EAC looking at future planning and the Allegheny Alerts grants that will continue to come from new legislation at the federal level. So if you have any questions, just let me know. But I didn't want to leave you hanging on that, so you would know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Congratulations.
Debbie,
Yes, yes, Dr. Rob.
no, I said
Yes.
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is James Winsheimer. I live at 120 Ridge Avenue, Pittsburgh 15237, which is in Ingomar. I'm also an operations assistant with the North Allegheny School District in transportation. I'm just here to ask the township respectfully if I could have an update or an ordinance change or an upgrade on our ordinance for the motorized off-road type vehicles like all-terrain vehicles and dirt bikes. And I'm currently dealing with a neighbor whose son, they have two kids that have been riding. It's less than probably 80 feet from my back door. The noise is just terrible, but I have a copy where I found an old newspaper article that Hampton Township a few years back did a multiple upgrade in their wording, and it's much strongly worded. So you probably can't see, this is ours here where it says about or unnecessary noise. And I can't seem to get the code enforcement or the police to enforce it because it does say or unnecessary noise. Even though the pipes are in compliance, it's very loud when it's right outside your bedroom window in your kitchen. And I get fumes, I get dust sometimes. And Hampton Township upgraded theirs a few years ago. And they have a lot of additional conditions such as the repos, unusual noise that endangers the comfort or peace or safety from people within the township. It also has, I guess, a distance which is 250 feet from another person's property, which is still even too close. So it's not like we're living, it's a residential neighborhood. This shouldn't be going on, what I'm saying. And there's like a dirt bike track back there with jumps and everything right behind my house. So I'd just like to present this to council. I've already spoken to, I believe, Mr. Terrell, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And show them that it's highlighted here. If this could be expedited or put through. So then if I do have to call the police, at least we have some wording within our ordinance instead of just this little thing here, even though nobody can explain what or is to me. If dirt bikes are necessary right behind a person's residence. And my wife's retired, and I'm going to be retiring soon. We can't even sit in our backyard sometimes when it's going on. That's how loud it is. Yeah. So it's just not a good situation. So respectfully, I would like to ask if I could present this to somebody. Have you looked this one over from Hampton Township and compare it to, how small ours is? And if we could have an upgrade and somebody be in touch with me if we can get this enforced. So I really would appreciate that. So did I just present this to you? Or?
Yeah, I'll grab it afterwards, Jim.
Yeah. I have my information on our email. So thank you. That's ours here. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in. Is there any other public comment on non-agenda items? before we wrap up here. Anyone in the chat box? There's been no one tonight, so. Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second? Someone? Second. Everyone in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good. Meeting adjourned.
I know.